I'm Andrew McIlwain and I'm the Managing Director of Investigator Resources. Investigator is an ASX-listed company with all of its interests in Australia, and predominant focus is the Paris Silver Project, which is located in South Australia. The Paris Silver Project has advanced from a Greenfields discovery through to, in fact, last week we released an updated resource, 53 million ounces of silver in the ground, and with that resource, we're progressing through to completion of the pre-feasibility study.
Andrew, good to see you. You haven't been on the show since January. What have you been up to?
Well, Matt, great to be back on, and thank you. And it's great to have the opportunity to present the investigator story to your listeners. I suppose we did all the hard work on the ground last year with a huge drill program. We drilled more metres than any other company in South Australia in 2020. And this year has been pulling that data together. So with all of that drill assay results, we've put together an updated resource estimate for the Paris Silver Project, which is our primary asset, as I mentioned. 53 million ounces of silver in the ground. Today's silver price, it's about $1.8 billion worth of silver in Australian dollars in the ground. Highest grade silver project in Australia. And in an area, and I suppose I always try and point out to people, if you the screen behind me is central South Australia. We'll displace some wild goats, and that's about it when we develop the project.
What a nice, and I can't actually see any behind you, can I?
Oh, no, that's my ear.
Okay. Hey, well, look, thanks for coming back on the show. Like I said, it's been a while, but I was sort of intrigued by what you've been doing since we spoke in January, because I noticed that you've gone from 43 million ounces to 53 million ounces, from 1.5 billion to 1.8 billion of silver in the ground. But so what? It's like, why did you go through that process? How much money have you spent doing it? And what's the upside for your shareholders?
Look, we spent a couple of $1 million with the drill program and the technical work, and we added $300 or $400 million worth of in-ground value. So our return's not bad. The other thing that we really did focus on, and we only drilled within the known footprint, and the primary objective was, in fact, to improve the confidence of the geological resource. Technical terms, we've moved a lot of the material which sat in the lower confidence area, which is called inferred. We moved that into indicated, and 75% of our resource now sits indicated. One of the things and the restrictions in being able to quote resources and reserves is that you cannot start a mine plan and a reserve on anything but indicated and above. So the majority of our material is in that confidence category. It's also given us the confidence that the grade is there and can be a sustainable project going forward.
Okay, so you're about to deliver a PFS in this quarter. I suspect. Is that right? That's what I've heard.
That's right. Yes.
Okay. So that's obviously something that this market is expecting, and you've delivered. You've been doing some drilling. You've done the updated resource, and you're going to deliver the PFS. Fantastic. Where do you take this thing through to? Is PFS enough to get someone else to kind of come in with the big bucks, or are you going to be able to go out and move this through to a feasibility study? Because 100 million Aussie market cap, with 1.8 billion, silver in the ground, it doesn't seem anyone's paying attention.
Look, it is, and the Australian market, as you know very well, is spoiled for choice in the precious metal space. There's 307 gold companies to choose from. There's 3 silver companies. Keep saying we're the highest grade of those. We're a great investment from the perspective, if you want to have exposure to silver, think about Investigator and go and look at our share price and match it against the silver price. We match it on a daily basis. So you want silver exposure, you're going to get it in spades from us. If you'd asked me the same question 12 months ago, we had a market cap of 10 million and the capex is of the order of 120. That was a big reach for us. Our market cap today is over 100 million. So, that capital chunk is something we can bite off and chew. How we finance that and decide to going forward is obviously going to be subject to much discussion later, but it's achievable for us now. The work we're doing, it's all that sort of fascinating, boring behind-the-scenes stuff. We're out for budget pricing on all the equipment. The design for the plant's been done. And probably overlooked one of the things that we did do earlier this year and late last year was metallurgical test work. There was a component of the Paris resource that had poorer recovery. And we said, gee, if there's a real lift for this project, it's to be able to shift what was nearly 50% of the resource from a lower recovery to a higher recovery. So set the team an objective, give me another 5% out of this or go home. And we did announce that we shifted the recoveries of that component from 65 to 72%. So again, a really good, and that, the money that was spent on that was, a great investment to be able to improve that recoveries.
So, but tell me this. I mean, are you the guys to take this thing forward? Is what I'm asking, because there's not many silver companies in Australia. It's gold, 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 right? Gold or go home. So, do you have conversations with more established silver companies and say, well, look, there's a lot of silver here. Maybe you're the people with your balance sheet to take this thing forward, and then you focus on some of the other projects that you've got going on in Southern Australia and Tasmania.
Sure. Look, whilst I'm a mining engineer by trade, I've built a few projects around the world, so I'm not going to shy away, or I'm not afraid of actually groundbreaking work and getting through that, which is generally a tough part of the process to finance and deliver or commission and deliver an outcome. Interestingly, the recovery process, while the sort of washing machine part of it's all a little bit the same, and we actually use cyanide in the recovery process. We pour silver ingots, so it's same as gold. Use cyanide, pour ingots. So, which will be great for us because it's a really simple transporting issue rather than having to sell a concentrate. The other side of it is it's interesting, and I started last year trying to get some North American interest to the project. I was in Vancouver in February, got home just ahead of COVID and haven't been able to go back. So we are, in fact, looking at going down the path of an OTC listing so that we can get North American trade more easily and get our exposure into the States. There's a couple of key shareholders who we would bring on board. You can understand who they might be. I won't name them. But, that's what part of my objective is to get, one of the prominent precious metals resource investors into Investigator.
You can name
whether
them.
we're a takeover target.
You can name them. It's fine. I don't mind. Like who? Yeah. What sort of person?
No, look, I'll keep it away. They might be shy away, but look, as are we a takeover target? Well, I'd like to think that somebody sees us as undervalued because I consider we are. We will probably rise to some prominence when we get our PFS out, and we'll be able to say, well, here's the project's returns, and it's a very modest capital. As I said, it's an unloved part of the investment community in Australia. Not many people seek out silver investment in Australia.
But that's my point. That's why I'm kind of pushing you hard on this point is, you need someone else maybe who does have a higher profile in silver or a bigger balance sheet, because it's not an insignificant resource you've got there, right? So you've done a lot of the heavy lifting. When the PFS comes out, I guess we'll confirm how accurate your PEA was, or sorry, your scoping study was, right? So it must be a consideration when you're looking at what you've done so far and looking at your market cap. You're used to doing formats. You've got some of the other projects formed out. People are doing an earning on those things. You're used to doing deals. Is it a consideration with your flagship project that you do this?
Oh, look, without doubt. And our major shareholder is UK-based precious metal fund Jupiter. They have nearly 15% of us. They, for instance, are a major shareholder in First Majestic, who is a silver producer in South America. Now, I'm not going to preempt what conversations might happen in the future, but there's some logic and synergy, how that might pan out. Anything could happen. And look, it's not a throwaway line, but it's ultimately going to be what's the best value for shareholders, some of whom have been around for a fair while. So those that ring me up and say, I bought in at 30 cents, I said, well, we've still got a little bit of work to do to get your money back.
So when we spoke in January, you had about $14 million. You spent 2 of that, so presumably you got $12 million. So you're not short of cash. But at the same time, I'm quite questioning, why were you only spending $2 million in terms of advancing the project? Was that as much as you needed to spend, or you couldn't spend it? I mean, what was your thinking?
Yeah, look, no, it was as much as we wanted to spend, not forgetting that we started this process in July last year when we did that capital raising, and the silver price has run in front of us, which has been great. So we bit off a sizable or a manageable chunk. What we wanted to do was improve the confidence of the resource, and as I said, we've now shifted 75% of that into indicator, which allows us to take the next logical step to mine planning and optimisation. We're back now. In fact, we're back drilling again around the Paris project. So whilst the 2020 drill program was just around the footprint, we're now actually stepping out, particularly in areas where the drilling didn't complete or didn't close off mineralisation. And we had 7 targets regionally within 5 kilometres that had some snips of silver and gold and lead, and we drilled 7 last year. We're back. We started last week drilling 4 of those. So having some confidence to go back to 4 of 7 targets is a pretty good hit rate. Whether they'll end up turning into something that will be complementing Paris, that's what we're looking for, is additional mine life surrounding Paris.
Okay, so you're doing some drilling extension on Paris. I get it, but it's already of a size which is big enough, right? It's big enough. It can be bigger, but the point is it's enough to get you going. So you don't want to spend too much money on that going forward. Is that what you're saying?
Look, absolutely. We don't need to invest any more to get to the next investment decision for the project. So,
cool. Okay. Just want to understand the speed and rate at which you're spending money, and so just okay, that's fine. Can we talk about some of the other projects? And we discussed these in the past. You've got other projects in Southern Australia, you're also in Tasmania too, and you've also got DGR with the farm-out situation there. Can you give us an update on all of that? Sure,
absolutely. We have, and I suppose DGO is that earn-in from them is probably the first one I'd like to talk about, in the Stewart Shelf, which is within the Olympic Dam inlayer. We have a package of tenements there which were adjacent to DGO's tenements. We did drill them in the past looking for very deep, and they were very deep IOGCs, iron oxide, copper gold projects. DGO have got a different approach or a different thematic in that area, and they are looking for sedimentary hosted copper, which is like the Zambian belt style copper deposits. So we've allowed them to earn into our tenements. There's quite a large contiguous package of tenements there. They've undertaken the first drill program, put some results out, some encouraging copper intersections, and they're embarking, I think there's another 90 holes in the next program. So there's a big drill program for them looking for copper in that. It's close to Emmy Bluff, which was a great discovery with Coda more recently. So a little bit of Scottish background, happy to have other people spend money earning into our tenements. But what we also have is certainly enough cash that allows us to do other regional work. And we've got some tenements we call Morgan's Harris Bluff, which are a contiguous package of tenements to the east of Paris. Some early stage silver lead exploration results there. We expect this quarter we'll be back and able to do some drilling. We've done some preliminary work. We've done soil sampling, all those good things. We have a small area that we're working through native title clearance for, and we have quite a large program planned for the second half of this year. So reasonably early stage, 15 to 20 kilometres away from Paris, but really interesting ground. Tasmania's been a challenge for us to get to during COVID, but ironically it opened up as a tourist opportunity for Australians who weren't able to get to Aspen to go skiing or something else. And it's very hard to hire a car in Tasmania. It's one of the really simple practical issues of being able to do some work there. Sounds a little odd, but we'll be down there in August, probably the coldest, wettest part of the year in west coast of Tasmania, and starting some work on the ground there adjacent to the MMG's Rosebery project and the Henty Gold Mine. Great country. It's wild west country, but very hard to explore, but we're going to roll up our sleeves and start on that this year as well.
So remind me of the deal with regards to the copper, the farm out with DGR, because obviously copper prices, near all-time highs. So what's the structure of that? They're obviously earning in, but what's it mean for you in terms of cash in or shares or?
Sure. So a three-part or a three-stage earn-in. There was a minimum expenditure of $350,000, which they clipped off very quickly, gave us notice that they were going to step into the second stage, which is $3 million in 2 years, and then a third stage of another $3.5 million in the next 2 years. So $6.5 million over 4.5 years. They said they've spent about $500,000 or $600,000 of that to date. They end up earning 65% of the project first, and then another 25 or 15% on top of that. So they earn up to 80%, spending $6.5 million. We're free carried through that. There's normal commercial terms about what happens with the balance of the 20, whether we do contribute or dilute. But what a great position to be in, to have an option over 20% of what might be a great copper project.
Okay, interesting. And so I know they're doing a lot of drilling there, but again, what's your expectation on timing for all of that? Because are they going to work their way through that quicker than the allotted time frame that they've got? Because these things just drag on and on. But in a bull market, it's slightly easier.
If you look at the, and I'll talk about the personality of DGO itself, but if you have a look at the individuals, and Ed Eschers is the MD of DGO, very, very accomplished and experienced explorer. They're very early into the grey as well as an investor, very savvy. Plenty of cash. There's not going to be a restriction for them to complete that drilling, and I think they're planning another 90 holes in the next program, which is a big lift in the total meters that they've drilled. So, look, it won't be an issue of waiting 4 years. They'll have that program if they really get the tiger by the tail. That'll have that earning done, I would imagine, within 2 years.
Okay. Again, I'm asking these questions because quite often when companies, and we've had loads on the show that do these kind of farm out situations, like people are doing an earn-in, they've got the speed at which they spend the money, it does kind of take a while for any value for that money being spent to be attributed to your company, right? And so right now, do you think there's any value attributed to you for that copper project?
Look, I expect not. There was a bit of sort of social media noise about when the results are going to come from that DGO drilling. But look, I expect not. And you're quite right. In farming out, you lose control of the pace at which the news flow is delivered. As I've known Ed for many years, and we have a program where there won't be any issue about them spending. If they get a sniff of something, there won't be any issue about them spending the money in the time frame. It'll be, in fact, us trying to keep up with how rapidly they're generating news.
Okay, right. Okay, so right. Okay, we've talked about. Okay, you've done an update on the resource, the pre-phase coming out this quarter. What are we looking out for here? So why are things going to start moving? Because your share price is the same as it was when we spoke in January. So what have we got to look forward to?
Sure. Look, and just to be quite open about it, our share price has come off a little in the last week or so, and that's in response to what people tell me was, in fact, a book that was being run on hot copper about what our resource update was going to be and how many tens and hundreds of percent we were going to increase our resource by. Interesting, people got that head of steam up, but as I said, the thing for us is we delivered the confidence uplift in what we needed. We didn't end up doubling the number of ounces, and I think.
Well, sorry, was that ever a possibility?
No. Honestly, not in my mind.
If you're making investment decisions based on conversations in hot copper or any of these other chat rooms, I think you need a good, long, hard talk to yourself. Generally, as an investor, right? Because it's I think extremist commentary like
sure.
that.
So
is
look, as I
right?
said, I was told by somebody that was happening. As a managing director, if you refer to hot copper, it would do your head in. So
absolutely.
I don't take any notice, but somebody was telling me that there was a book being run about the uplift. But look, so in some respects, for some of those outliers, we're probably disappointed. But for what we wanted to deliver, so over a period of time, we wanted to improve the metallurgical recovery. We've done that. We wanted to improve our confidence in the resource, and we've shifted, as I said, 75% of the material into indicated. We are on the path to complete the feasibility study. So that's what I committed to when I raised $8 million last year. Tick, tick, tick. So we're delivering on those things. Could we always do it faster? Well, we'd like to, but practically it's hard getting the assay labs they've gone from 4-week turnaround to 8 and 10-week turnarounds with assays and things like that. So the capacity of the service providers is also limited now in the industry. But that's it.
Okay, do you mind if we talk about this for a second, because it kind of slightly sort of strikes a nerve, because there's very good, honest, hardworking retail people who get a little bit blinded by some sensationalist type statements in these chat rooms, right? And I want to understand what you and your team wanted to do, and what was always on the cards and what was not always on the cards. So, you've done some infill work, and you've taken some of the inferred into indicated, right?
Yes.
And it was as much as you expected to come in. I mean, it's a lot, 75% you're talking about now in
well, look,
that
it was
category.
probably a little more than we had anticipated.
Right, okay, perfect. But that's my point, that, you were doing and you met your expectation or slightly exceeded your expectation, but doubling was never part of the mission here, because you weren't going to go and blast $10 million on infill. You didn't need to. Is that right?
Absolutely. And one of the other things that we wanted to try and achieve out of this was a mine life of 10 years. Magic number in some respects. And previously we were sort of vacillating about 6 or 7 or 8, that sort of number of years. But a plus 10-year mine life gives you a raft of other opportunities. Financing is far easier, because traditional banks and financiers will want to look for a mine life in excess of that. They don't want to be involved in a 2 or 3 year one-shot wonder. So that was part of it. The other thing is, and I continue to refer to the landscape behind me, which is uninhabited, and it's a little bit like Gilligan's Island, no water, no power. We know where the water is, but we only actually have to bring power in one of 3 different forms. It's either going to come with a power line, 70-kilometre power line. It's either going to come from diesel-fired power station, or it'll come from renewables. A 10-year mine life gives us an opportunity to look at putting a solar farm in, or a hybrid type power solution, which has the potential to halve our power costs. So another thing we were looking for was a longer mine life to give us some flexibility to look at some infrastructure options, where if we were in and out in 6 years, it was diesel only, 250,000 litres of fuel a week type thing. So I expect we'll have a hybrid power solution out here. Not enough wind to warrant it, but there certainly will be some solar installed.
Okay, I get it. Thank you. Look, you run a good, solid company with good, solid ambitions, and you delivered what you said you're going to deliver. I like that. What I don't like is the some of the commentary in your forum or with other companies where people have made money off the back of other retail by pumping the stock, or pumping the possibility of you doubling your resource, selling out down to people who believe that story, and this thing has come off. So everyone gets affected by those sorts of individuals. So anyone watching this, but not just about this company, which is a well-run company, but any other companies where you see this kind of sensational type statements about what isn't going to happen by people who are not qualified to do that, please ignore. That's my recommendation to you. I think a lot of people have lost some money there. Andrew, thank you very much for today. I'm glad things are going well. Glad you're being smart about the way you spend your money and just moving this thing forward through to PFS. I look forward to seeing those numbers when they come through.
Look, Matt, thank you very much for the opportunity. I really enjoy the conversation and the opportunity to present our story. We'll have the PFS completed, probably be back by then. I'll just maybe finish. My father, who was a sage, wise man, told me stay away from the charlatans, and at 10% you might be able to eat better, but 5% you can sleep better. And I said, some of the people I hear about, and I said, I don't ever profess to log on and look at social media claptrap that's going on, but they're talking their own book.